Sam Brewer arrived at Campbell in the fall of 1968, and before he was finished, left with 3 All-America honors and played a large role in the school's first national championship. A transfer from Wake Forest, Sam helped lead the Camels to 3 straight NAIA national tournament appearances and top honors in 1970. Under the direction of coaches Danny Roberts and Hargrove Davis, Brewer and his teammates established a golf dynasty in Buies Creek, even before Keith Hill's Golf Club was built in 1974 and the athletic teams transitioned to the Division I level. Following graduation, Sam worked in golf for 4 decades, retiring in 2015 as Director of Golf at Northridge Country Club in Raleigh. Through the years, Sam has stayed in close contact with his former teammates, getting together regularly for rounds of golf and other social events. My name is Stan Cole, class of 1987, and this is the next installment of Tales from the Creek, where we visit with the people who've made this place special over the years. I'm delighted to be joined today by All-American and Campbell Hall of Fame member Sam Brewer. Welcome to Tales from the Creek, Sam, and thanks for taking the time to visit with us.
Well, thank you, Stan. I sure have some great memories of my days at Campbell, and I've had so much fun in the last few years visiting again and enjoying myself at the Hall of Fame banquet and the tournaments that we've had at Buies Creek. But that's just been a lot of fun. I'm so proud of Campbell University. I just thank my lucky stars that I was able to go there. For me to get there, it was, of course, I was playing golf, and to do that, it takes a lot of time and effort to learn how to play. I grew up in the town of Wake Forest, and at the time, the population of Wake Forest was about 3,000. We had a 9-hole golf course there called Pascal, and it's still there.
I played that in high school.
Is that
Sure did. Not for a team, but for a buddy who played in high school. Great little track.
Well, thank you. It's the greatest golf course in the world to learn how to play. It's at times I've often thought, God, what a disadvantage it was to play the golf course that only had 6 bunkers, little teeny greens, relatively short. It was short, and but when I look back on it, it was a great advantage because it was, you could shoot a low score on that golf course, and so it kind of got you used to thinking it's okay if you shoot on the bar, and it it got you comfortable being in a situation like that. The other thing that was so nice was that we kids could play golf anytime they wanted to, whereas a lot of country clubs just stay in time. The kids can't play until after lunch, and have quite a few restrictions on them. But we were able to play anytime we wanted. Both my parents played, and my grandmother also played. Matter of fact, she was the manager of the Pascal Golf Club for a couple of years when we first started. My brother and I first started playing, and since she was the manager of the club, my mother and or dad would take us to the golf course in the morning, and so we would. My brother and I would play all day long with our buddies, and then we'd go home in the evening. I mean, it was something that we did, just day after day after day.
About how old were you when you started, Sam?
I was 7 years old.
Wow.
My brother was 5, and he went on to he won he got the first full golf scholarship NC State ever gave, which kind of brings me back to Pascal Golf Club, and that after my grandmother, after her time there as the manager of the golf course, we got our first golf professional at Pascal, and his name was Otis Briggs. And of course, as a kid, I was so enamored with the fact that, here's a guy that's a golf professional. Well, he also had 4 other brothers that were golf professionals, and that was something else as a kid to see these 5 guys out on the golf course playing. The youngest brother's name was Wade Briggs. I was just checking on him the other day. He's now 81 years old. He's the only brother still living. But boy, I looked up to him. He was, I remember when I was 14 years old, as a kid, just playing golf with these guys was something else. Wade was 6 years older than me, and he was somebody to really look up to. He and himself won 2 state high school championships from Roxborough, and that's where those brothers were from. So that was a great time of my life I was very fortunate to have been able to grow up at that little 9-hole course.
Sam, was golf the one and only, or did you play other sports, or like it seems like kids used to do back then? You kind of played what was in season?
That's right. I didn't play football, but I did play basketball, and that was a lot of fun. We had a really good, we had a great high school coach, Coach Steinbach, and we had a very successful time with him. We won every game my senior year, and I played with some really good players. This guy took a bunch of guys that really didn't know how to win, but I tell you, when I think about that, what he did it's just amazing. I was so fortunate to play for him. I hope John Byrne can listen to this podcast and give me a comment on him too. But
Sam, by the time you were in high school, Wake Forest University, of course, had moved over to Winston-Salem
Right.
from the town of Wake Forest. Were you a Deacons fan, even so, growing up, or?
I was a Deacon band for sure. We had the school left in in '56, and so we had a Kappa Sig house on one side of our house, and we had a K house on the other side. And we were able to. That was a lot of fun playing baseball out there. And I know we worried those guys to death, but that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I grew up a Deacon fan. I started off at Wake Forest University, and but it was kind of destined for me to go to Wake Forest to begin with, because I had a great grandfather that founded the university in 1834, and it was kind of a thing that had to happen. But anyway, I was looking for this particular letter that I found, or that Danny Roberts sent me, and he sent me this letter, and on February the 24th, 1967, which is how many years ago was that, Russ?
We're getting close to 63 years ago or so.
Yeah.
64
Well,
years
anyway,
ago.
but it was from Coach Roberts, and evidently he had he visited a basketball game that we happened to have been playing in at Smithfield, and but he wanted me to come there and play golf, and I knew of how good the Campbell golf team was. I mean, I they had a guy there by the name of Frank Powers, and a good friend Jimmy Garkin, who I played with as a junior golfer, and joined him at Campbell to get on that team. So that was, they already had a history of some good teams, and
Sam, I'm always curious to ask this question. You know, when we're growing up and we're in the driveway and shooting baskets, we pretend to be. You know, I was Pistol Pete or uh, or Artist Gilmore in the ABA days in the driveway. Who were your golfing heroes?
well, well, if it was an amateur, it would have to have been Billy Joe Patton.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was a pro, it would just have to be Arnold Palmer. And I think most everybody that's my age would have to agree. He was the king, and we guy he was fun to watch. Um, he was my man.
When did you start entering tournaments? What was your junior career like?
Well, let's see. Oh, my I was probably 10 years old before I played in my first tournament. My dad said that for me to play in a tournament, I had to break 100 on a strange golf course, and so he took me and some other guys to play at the Raleigh Country Club.
Okay.
And I remember I shot 96, and he said it's okay. So that kind of got me started, and I was, playing in a lot of junior tournaments. I won the Raleigh um, City Junior when I was 14, and then when I was 17, I won the Wake County Amateur, which was quite an interesting tournament in that they played it on 3 different golf courses, and they moved them around from time to time to I mean, you if you played 3 rounds, you played 3 different golf courses, which was a lot of fun. And it generally, it had a lot of the field was pretty strong, so really felt good about that. Gave me a lot of confidence.
You spent a year at Wake Forest. Um, Tell us about why you decided to transfer to Campbell. What was it about Campbell? Was it that earlier connection, the outreach from Coach Roberts? What was when if you left Wake, why Campbell?
Well, that's I'll tell you, was my thinking, was that my first semester at Wake Forest, I did pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then golf season rolled around, and I I didn't do so well. Um, I played in 9 out of the 10 matches that we played then, and I remember I was medalist in 2 of those, and I was tied for 10th in the ACC championship that year. But I just knew grade-wise that I was going to have a difficult time, and I was able to go to Campbell summer school to get my grades a lot better, which I did. And then I just felt like that Campbell was the right idea for me, and I loved Coach Roberts, and I just felt like that was a really good move.
Tell us a little bit about Buies Creek in the late '60s, and the Campbell campus and the feel about the place. And
Well, it was, at the time, and right now it's, it's its own little city now, it seems like. But then, golly, it was so small. Um, and, it was, it wasn't any, not too many parties on that campus. So, uh, we went to Raleigh a lot on the weekend. And that's what we did. And we, I would go home. We didn't have Buies Creek then. So I went home and played. At the time, I played at the Wake Forest Country Club. We used to have games on the weekend that we played, because we needed a place to practice and play, and it was a good thing for me to do. So typically, I would I went home a lot on the weekends. It was close by, and I was very lucky to be able to do that. But I would think now would have been a lot different story, because that campus is, gosh knows, I can't believe how big it's gotten, and those kids are so lucky to have the golf course that they have there, and the programs, and all the courses they have to offer.
the practice facilities out are incredible. And we literally have student athletes coming from all over the world to Buies Creek now. And one of the biggest attractions, and for many of the golf alumni that I've talked to over the last couple of decades, that said, well, the course is right here on campus, the practice facilities. I might be from Sweden, and when I come back to school in January, we can practice outdoors. We can play the whole time. We play a great schedule. When you arrived, Keith Hills wasn't there.
No.
So where did y'all go practice, and what did you do? What did that look like, Sam?
Well, what we did was we either played at Chicora.
Mm-hmm.
They allowed us to play there. We sometimes go to Sippa Hall, which was in Fuquay, and which is not there now, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
We would play a little golf course called Pine Burr. I don't know if that's
R.I.P. to Pine Burr as well, over there on the other side of Lillington. Yep, that closed down a few years back.
okay. So that's what we did. We had to go to Chicora, and our teammate Julian Bunn, thank goodness he had a car, because he would give us rides to the golf course every day.
What kind of car was it?
Gosh, I don't know. I think it was a Plymouth station wagon.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept that thing running. We couldn't go, it wouldn't go about 60 miles an hour if he had the pedal to the metal. So,
But it was plenty big to throw a bunch of bags in the back and to go.
It was, and thank goodness he had that vehicle for us. That was mighty nice of him to do that. So,
Sam, the golf program now, it doesn't matter if you're from Buies Creek or Tahiti. John Crooks will go find the best players, and he's had players from as close by as lived in Keith Hills or, um, halfway around the world. But the bulk of your teammates were from North Carolina. Most everyone from North Carolina, and then maybe Kenny McDonald, I recall, might have been from Florida. But what was it? Did you grow up playing it? Are these familiar faces from junior golf when you joined them there?
Um, they were. I knew every one of them. Julian Bunn is from Raleigh. Scott Irby, we played junior golf with him. He was from Little Washington. Kenny was from Wilmington. Kurt Sewell was from the town of Wake Forest.
Mhm.
And then Jimmy Gherkin was also from Little Washington.
Mhm.
And then we had Jackie Jackson. He was from Wilmington. So yeah, we all knew each other, and Scott started off at Wake Forest, and yeah, he gave me a ring one day, and because we were, I think this was his. Yeah, it must have been his. It was our sophomore year. He was at Wake Forest at the time, and he asked me how we were doing. I said we were doing great. Anyway, we talked him into coming to Campbell, and he was so happy that he was able to do that because he was on that championship team.
Sam, I had a recent conversation with Campbell alumni and current touring pros, Jesper Svensson and Pontus Nyholm. And they were talking a little bit about life on tour, and one thing they really missed was that time they had with their teammates, not just to be around and be friends, but they really had competition going almost every day of the week within the team. Um, did y'all have that same feel when went out?
We did. Every single day we played against each other. We would either we had individual games, or um, we'd have 2-man teams. Golly, that was, and I mean, it was. We played as hard as you could possibly play because I mean, we had a little wager on the side, and um, so we would play at one of those golf courses. We also were able to go to. We played uh, Pine Pinehurst number 2 numerous times.
Wow.
Um, after class, we'd get in the car and take off and go play. They were so good to us there, and yeah, but that was a lot of fun having those matches. I'll never forget it, and I cannot imagine how these guys are doing now. I can't believe how good of a player that Eric Johannesson is.
Mhm.
Uh, been able to play with him the last 2 years in the Battle at the Creek.
Mhm.
That was been an eye opener. I didn't realize that. It was just hard to believe how far this guy can hit the ball. I mean, he was trying to drive every par 4 green out there at Buies Creek that day, and never seen anything like it. It was really fun to watch a guy play that good.
Sam, tell us a little bit about your coaches, Danny Roberts and Hargrove Davis.
Okay. Well, um, when I first got to Campbell, Roberts was our coach, and he was also basketball,
Mhm.
and he was a really good basketball coach too. But he knew he had been coaching the golf team, and had quite a success doing that. And he knew something about golf. and he knew how to handle us, knew what we needed to do, and that sort of thing. And Coach Davis was a wonderful man, and he could play a pretty good game of golf himself. He did a lot for us. He reminded me of Jesse Haddock in a way, in that he knew he couldn't tell you how to swing better, but he could tell you how to think better. And everybody, especially young guys, need that kind of help. And if you're going to be a good player, you really need to learn how to think. And I think Coach Davis helped us a lot in that way.
So, it's hard to believe, but 55 years ago, this coming June, you and your teammates went to Kansas City and brought home what is still the only national championship in Campbell athletics history. What do you recall? I mean, obviously Campbell had a run going. The team was in the midst of 6 straight years of going to the nationals, so the stage was not uncommon for your guys. But what do you recall about that year, and what made that year so special?
Okay. Well, we had the year before we'd gone to Fort Worth, and so we got some experience in that regard. And so I think that really helped us in preparing for what we needed to do at Kansas City. It was a really good golf course. The weather was not that good, and I know that on it had rained on our last round. It had rained so much they were thinking about calling that last round off and giving us that championship, but we didn't want it to end that way, and that's the truth. So luckily, we didn't win it that way. So we had to go out on the golf course and finish. And I remember that last hole on that golf course was extremely hard. The wind was in our face. It was a long iron to the green. And I'm not sure if anybody hit that green in regulation, but every single player got the ball up and down on that last hole. And I believe we won the tournament by, it was 3 or 4 shots was the amount of strokes we won by. And what was really funny is about that, to me, when I think back on it, one of our teammates, Scott Irby, was short of the green and 2, and the pin was kind of in the back of the green up on this little slope, and he hit his pitch, and it was really, really low to the ground. And of course, we asked him what club he hit, and he said he hit it with an 8-iron. But years later, he confessed that he sculled that sand wedge up there just perfect. And he sculled it up there about 3 feet from the hole and made that putt. And it kind of got us started. That was something else, but we're so proud of that. That was.
I remember in our conversations a few years back, Sam, when we were putting together a story about that 1970 team, and I believe it was Julian who said that it really didn't strike y'all. Y'all were used to winning golf tournaments and used to going out and playing and coming back, but it said it really didn't strike him, hit home until y'all flew back into Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people from Campbell waiting for you at the airport to congratulate you on that championship.
Yep. They did. That was what a moment that was, and God, I was so proud. There are some pictures of that, and you know, national championship is a national championship, and we were so proud of that win and what it meant to us, and just won't ever forget it.
Sam, you and many of your teammates have stayed close through the years. You mentioned that y'all have had a regular group that gets together and a few for a while and played. Tell us a little bit about how y'all stayed so close. Many of you live within driving distance of each other.
Yeah, we do. Um, Julian Bond has been in the golf business ever since he got out of college, and he has the business Continental Golf, and she and his brother started, and so I've been able to keep up with Julian, our whole careers, because I mean, he's been in business in the same city that I've been in business, and we run into each other all the time. Also, uh, Jimmy Garkin just turned pro, and he bought a golf course in Wilson, called Willow Springs. So, I'd run into Jimmy quite often playing in golf tournaments in our section events. Kenny McDonald was a sales rep for a golf company, and he also would follow the tour and sell his goods to and show his equipment to these touring pros. So, we always stayed in touch. Kurt Sewell, a boy that I grew up with, who went to Campbell, turned pro. He worked for Buck Adams at the Country Club of North Carolina. He also became head pro at the Smithfield Country Club. He became a lot better player when he got out of college. Kurt went through first stage of tour qualifying, and he missed on the second stage. Never tried it again. He had to get to work, and he did. Later in his life, he came to work with me at the Northridge Country Club as an assistant golf professional, and so we were good friends until he passed away, and so we've always been able to. I play golf with Julian and his brother John at least 6 or 7 times a year in a little event that we call the Brothers Tournament. That's which we play it at Country Club of North Carolina with Julian as a member there. Now that's a competitive event for sure.
Some things, the faces might look a little different, and the hair might be a little gray, but the competitive fire is still the same.
It sure is.
Sam, you made golf your career. Tell us a little bit about your professional journey.
Okay. I started off as the pro superintendent at the Roanoke Country Club in Williamston, North Carolina. And while I was there, we resurfaced, I think we resurfaced 5 or 6 greens and rebuilt one of the greens 2 weeks after I got there. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know anything about it. But we figured out how to do it. And then we, got the architect Gene Ham and, built 9 more holes. So in a year and a half, they started off as 9 holes and we wound up with 18. So I feel really good about that. And they understand they're doing really well now. So happy about that. Right in it. So, I was there for a year and a half and, then the Raleigh Country Club job got open and, luckily I got my resume in on time and, was fortunate enough to be there for 8.5 years. And that was a really, really fine golf course. I believe I was I think I was the 5th golf professional there at that club.
And of course, that's the last course that Donald Ross designed.
Right. It was Donald Ross's last course, and he passed away. And Ellis Maples finished it, and Ellis Maples was the first golf professional there.
And then, of course, there's a Buies Creek tie there because Ellis Maples later designed Keith Hill's golf club.
Exactly. And that's where our green superintendent from North Ridge came. That he and I, Butch Sheffield was the green superintendent at Buies Creek and saw the construction of that golf course. And I mean, not at Buies Creek, but at Keith Hill's. And then Butch and I worked together for 29 years at North Ridge, where he's now retired, and he plays golf there also. So he and I both. After I left Raleigh Country Club, I went to North Ridge Country Club in 1986, and I was there for 29 years.
Sam, before you also played on some mini tours, and did I read correctly in your resume that you played in the New Zealand tour?
I did.
Tell me about New Zealand. Is an incredible place. I've only, of course, seen it in videos and photos and things, but how does one get from Buies Creek, North Carolina, to playing in the New Zealand tour?
Well, when I was, when I turned, this is the way it used to work. If you wanted to turn pro and get a Class A card, you had to work underneath another Class A golf professional. And so, and you had to do a 4-year apprenticeship. So when I finished my apprenticeship at North Ridge Country Club under Ronnie Wrights, I now have my Class A card. And so I really did want to try to play in some tournaments and to see how good I was. And of course, I found out I wasn't good enough. But anyway, during this, I played in the very first, to my knowledge, it was the very first mini tour ever, and it was called the J.C. Goosey Tour. It was at in Tampa, Florida, and that was in 1971. And it was I believe it was the first one. I mean, some of the guys that were there were Jerry Hurd, Tom Kite, Jim Asserio. There was quite a few good players that played in that. Calvin Pete. Kind of just drawing a blank. Andy North. There was just a bunch of them, and then they went on to have great careers. But the New Zealand tour, I wanted to, after I got my Class A card, I wanted to play some more, so I saved up some money, and I figured out how much money it was going to be, and I said, well, I'd rather go to New Zealand and spend the same amount of money as if I was going to go to Florida and play in some tournaments there. So that's what we did, and that was quite an experience. In 1975, it was like, to me, New Zealand would remind you of North Carolina in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very uncommercialized, and anyway, the golf courses were terrific, and the players, they were terrific too. And we played 2 tournaments in the North Island and 2 tournaments in the South Island, and that was really great experience, and I played pretty good there. I would probably played about as good as I could possibly play, considering the experience that I had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, during that period of time, my wife got pregnant, and so I either wanted to play some more golf or get a head pro job somewhere. And I remember going home one day and telling my wife that 2 things happened to me in the same day that I've always wanted, and one of them was I got a sponsor to help me when the tour got to Florida to start, qualifying for those events like you did, and also that I got a letter in the mail saying that I had gotten a job at the Roanoke Country Club. And then my wife says, well, I've got something to help make up your mind. And she said, well, I'm pregnant here. And of course, that when I think back on, I was, the best decision that I ever made was to have taken that job and gotten into the part of the business that I got into, because to play the tour is something else. You got to be so good, and there's not too many that were able to do it. But I had a good career in the club business, and so lucky.
Sam, there's a lot of people that I won't say they don't know any better, but maybe I will, because I've got a son that's worked in the golf business, and I've been around it through knowing some folks at Campbell. A lot of people think a club pro gets to play a lot of golf. What are some things about the business that most people don't know about the profession?
Well, for one thing, most of the clubs are closed on Mondays, and that's the day that you get to play, because the rest of the time you're working.
Right.
And on holidays, they're your busiest days, and the hours are long hours. I mean, our golf shop opened at 8 and we closed at 7. And we got off at 3 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day, and we were closed Christmas Day. And the rest of the holidays, we were working. So you would just have to have a tremendously big staff to be able to just go out and play golf anytime you wanted to. So your time wasn't there to play. So
What did you enjoy most about that job?
I think I really enjoyed the growth that our club made during the years that we were there. You talking about at North,
Or it's just in general about the as a club golf professional.
Well, first of all, I love golf. I'm nuts about the game, even at my age now, which is 76, and I love to be around people who love it as much as I do, and I enjoy teaching. I still teach a little bit at Northridge, and I enjoy playing with. Now I get to play with. I play at Northridge with my buddies, which is a lot of fun. I call them by their first names now, and when I'm playing golf with them, sometimes I call them whatever I want to and get away with it. But I love the business of, I love the merchandising part of the club business, and love the setting up the tournaments and watching people have fun. I love to make people have fun. So
Our guest today on Tales from the Creek is Campbell Hall of Fame member and All-America golfer Sam Brewer. Sam, you've seen so many changes over the last few decades in the game, from the ball to club technology. What ways has the game changed the most?
Well, I would have to say, people are hitting the ball so far
Mm-hmm.
that it's almost making some of these golf courses obsolete. The drivers, the equipment changes have just made tremendous differences. When we were in our younger days, when we were playing wooden drivers, the ball just wouldn't go but so far. So you really, really tried to hit it straight, and that was your emphasis. And now, the emphasis is just you got to be able to hit the ball 300 yards if you're going to compete. So that would have to be it. It would just have to be that it's changed so much in that people hit the ball so far, and the equipment is so good, and you can get the equipment fitted to you perfectly. And it's just a huge, huge advantage.
Hey Camel fans, this is Braxton Harris, and I've got one question for you. Are you ready for game day? Well, get your game face on, because Campbell's 2025 football season is here. We're bringing the energy, the grit, and the passion, and we want you to be right there with us. But hey, game day is just the beginning. You want to make a real impact? Then it's time to step up and join the Fighting Camel Club. Being a part of the Fighting Camel Club means you become the team behind the team, fueling scholarships, training, and academic success for not just our football athletes, but all 21 of our sports. When you join, you're not just a fan, you're a game changer. So what do you say, Camel Nation? Let's make a difference together. Join the Fighting Camel Club today and help us build champions on the field, in the classroom, and beyond.
I've had some friends that played college golf in the early 80s, and they say, and of course, I'm 60 now, and so they're about my age or maybe a little older, and they say that they're hitting the ball farther now than they did when they were in college, and they just say that not only the club technology, but the way they make the ball now allows them to do that. Even 40 years later, when you think of length and distance and power being a younger person's game, they're able to hit it just as far now because of the other.
Right. And and you can, with this technology that there is now, you can get the golf ball. I mean, you can get the correct golf ball for yourself. You can get it to spin the right amount, and you can get the correct loft on your driver and the right flex, and just so many different things that can help you hit it further. You get all these things dialed in, and there you get some more yardage, and it's great advantage to be able to do that.
With so many changes, how's it still the same?
Well, you got to put that ball in. Oh, that's for sure. That sometimes you just wonder. The hole sometimes looks like it's smaller than it is other times, but just like this boy that lost in a playoff yesterday. They were talking about, he hits it. So this boy, I think he's 20 years old. I can't even pronounce his last name. But anyway, I mean, he was hitting the ball 50 yards further than his playing partners, and but what got him at the very end was his pitching. He hit some bad pitches, so 60% of your shots. I think it's like 60% of your shots are inside of 50 yards, something like that. But still got to get it in the cup.
Sam, you mentioned having the opportunity to play with Eric Johansson, who's a sophomore on the Campbell golf team from Sweden. You've been able to play with him the last 2 years. Eric, of course, qualified as a freshman to go to the NCAA regional at Chapel Hill. I always like to ask this to my guests. What kind of advice would you give, or have you given in your through the years to young college age players? What kind of advice would you give to the freshman on the Campbell golf team or something like that?
If he wanted to play the tour,
or just in general, what kind of what advice would you say to somebody? You had 5 minutes to share a little bit with somebody, or just a couple of moments to share. What?
I would say that it would be I relate it. This is what I used to tell the guys that were coming to work for me, is that you can be the smartest guy on the face of the earth, but if you have the wrong attitude and you don't treat people like they ought to be treated, and you make a mistake, you'll pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take care of people and you're nice to people, you can be successful. So to me, that would be one of the things that would take him on through his career, is treating people like they ought to be treated, being honest. And to me, that's the most important thing. And because if you have that, and you have that quality about you, you can be successful. But if you don't, you're going to have a hard time.
Mm-hmm. Sam, you were inducted into the Campbell Athletics Hall of Fame. That's an honor you share with Jim Kirkin, Jim Bromley, and Jay Overton from those NAIA powerhouse days. What does being in the Hall of Fame mean to you?
Well, when I see all these other people that are in there as well, and just like when I just got through going to the 2025 Hall of Fame banquet. I was just so glad to have. I'm so glad that I went to meet these people and to see how much love they had of the sports that they played. Um, and they all, when I think about it, every single one of those people deserve that induction, and they were so proud of it, and I am too. Sometimes that's a big deal, and I'm so proud of the fact that that I am in that Hall of Fame alongside of a bunch of
This year, John,
people.
this year John Crooks was inducted. John's in his 35th year as Campbell's men's and women's golf coach and still going strong. The committee, frankly, could not justify not inducting him. He should have, perhaps gone in a long time ago. But you and John would have grown up about the same time. John in Winston-Salem, you were in Wake Forest. Did y'all compete against each other growing up in tournaments?
John is a little younger than I
Mm-hmm.
am, and we never did. Because when I was 21, I turned pro, and he was at the time. He was playing in junior golf tournaments, and he just kept on going, and guy, he had a tremendous amateur career playing. Guy, he was a excellent player, and John was a really good player, and guy, he certainly does deserve. The last few years, I've probably gotten to know John a lot better than I ever did, and I did. And I was talking to Julian Budd about him this morning, and golly, we were just talking about how good of a coach that he is, and to see what he's done through the years is just amazing. He's just done a fabulous job.
Sam, you, Jimmy, Julian, Scott, and so many others paved the way for a Campbell golf program that has produced dozens of NCAA postseason trips and conference titles, plus multiple touring pros. What's it like to know that you, your coaches, and teammates laid the foundation for what has really become a mid-major powerhouse in college golf?
Well, I don't know. Success breeds success,
Mm-hmm.
and evidently, that success that we had, opened some eyes, and it just kind of just gained momentum, and golly, I am so impressed with the teams that they have now. Is really, the girls and boys teams are amazing. I feel so fortunate to have met them and spent some time with them. But yeah, I'm very proud of the fact that we can say that we may have had something to do with it, because it's something certainly to be proud of now.
Absolutely. Sam, always when I talk to my guests that are involved in golf, I always like to wrap up with a few questions specifically about it. And I'm sure these are some of the questions you've heard through the years, but who makes up your ideal foursome? And you can add one. You can add yourself as a fifth if you need to.
Well, if I'm not playing with my three boys, Bo, John, and Michael, it would have to be I would love to play with Tiger Woods, Ben Hogan, and probably Sam Snead. Just to see, I would really love to have seen Hogan hit it and play with him. That would have been something to enjoy.
What's the most difficult course you've played?
I would have to say it was the most difficult course I played was Torrey Pines. And they just got through playing that golf course, and the day I played with my youngest son, Michael, and we played on a day that was raining and the rough was 6 inches deep and the wind was blowing it. The scores were pretty high. They played in 2 events there in the last, 4 months. Mm-hmm. The scores were really high. Yeah, that would have to be it for me. I play a lot of hard ones. They're all hard for me, but to me, that would be the one.
How about a favorite golf course?
It would have to be, I would have to say, Grandfather Mountain, and maybe Old Head. I had a great experience there at Old Head, and with my sons and some buddies.
Is there a course left on your bucket list, a course that you haven't played but you want to?
I want to play Pebble Beach.
How about a best golfing memory?
Golly, I've had some good ones. They say like, I would have to say it would the experience that I had with my dad when we went to the 1993 U.S. Open, all the golf courses we played in the area while we were there that week. That would have to be. I remember those very well.
You mentioned Arnold was your guy growing up. What golfers today do you really enjoy watching?
I've really have enjoyed watching Max Homa.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a really, really good swing to copy. Fleetwood. I love to watch him hit it. They're also so good now. But those two, I love to pull those swings up and let people just learn the different things about their golf swing that are so good.
Sam, what's the best piece of golf advice that you've been given? Your best golf tip?
Choosing the right club from off the green to use to either chip or pitch. I mean, I think you got to remember to try to putt. If you can't putt, chip, and if you can't chip, pitch. I mean, try to keep it as simple as possible and minimize your errors.
Finally, Sam, can you put into words how Campbell University and the Buies Creek community has impacted your life?
Well, yeah, I tell you, I really, really enjoy getting this Campbell magazine, and I've used a couple of these magazines in this And I'm very, very proud when I do read this magazine to see what all the good things that Campbell University is doing in the world and the effects they're having on different people. You know, I just think they had the right idea. I mean, they're doing things correctly. I'm just so proud of their reputation. I mean, it's just very, very strong in every area. And they got a lot to be proud of. And I know they are. But when they anyway, they're just doing things right.
I'm Stan Cole, and our guest today on Tales from the Creek has been Campbell Hall of Fame member and All-American golfer Sam Brewer. Thank you, Sam, for sharing your Tales from the Creek.
Thank you, Stan. I enjoyed it.